When you first start playing an instrument, you're told that a chord is just a set of 3 or more notes played together. But for a beginner, knowing which notes to combine can feel like trying to guess a combination through sheer luck. Looking at a chord chart often reinforces this. You see dozens of complex fingerings and positions that appear to be random shapes, each one requiring individual memorization. But these shapes aren't random at all. Chords follow a precise internal logic, built using a specific, repeatable formula. Once you understand this relationship, you can derive a major triad for any note on the fly. You no longer need to rely on a dictionary of memorized shapes to play a standard major chord. Mastering these sounds isn't a feat of memory, it's an application of musical logic. To see how this works, we have to start with our raw material, the major scale. We'll use the C major scale as our first test case to demonstrate the process. Here are the notes of that scale in order: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and finally C. We organize these notes by assigning them numbers 1 through 8. These numbered positions are referred to as the degrees of the scale. We begin with the first degree, which is C. This is the root note, the anchor for the entire sequence. The degrees then move up in order until we reach B, the 7th degree. This leads to the 8th degree, which is simply the root note C repeated at a higher pitch, the octave. This numbered grid provides the structure necessary to build our chord. Now that the grid is in place, we can isolate the specific notes required to form a major triad. The formula for a major chord is simple. You only need to play the 1st, 3rd, and 5th degrees of the scale. Applying this to C major, the 1st degree gives us our root, C. The 3rd degree of the scale is E, and the 5th degree is G. When you play C, E, and G together, you have a C major chord. What sounds like a complex musical unit is actually a straightforward extraction of 3 specific points along the scale. To see if this rule is truly consistent, we should see if it holds up when we change the starting note. We'll test the formula on the G major scale: G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Once again, we apply the numbered degrees, 1 through 8, to the new sequence. In this case, our 1st degree, the root, is G. Following the 1, 3, 5 rule, we pull the 3rd degree, which is B, and the 5th degree, which is D. Combining G, B, and D results in a perfect G major chord. This 1, 3, 5 relationship is a constant. It defines how every major chord is constructed, regardless of which scale you start with. However, this method is entirely dependent on your knowledge of the scale itself. If the notes in your scale are incorrect, your chord will be too. To use this 1, 3, 5 formula effectively, you first need to know how the scales are built. You can find that process in our video on major scale formation.